पाम टीवी पेश कर रहा है पाकिस्तान और हिंदुस्तान में भाईचारे और इत्तेहाद का प्रोग्राम। ये प्रोग्राम ओपी शाह की खसूसी काविशों से तरतीब दिया गया है। इस प्रोग्राम में शामिल हो रहे हैं पाकिस्तान के साबिक़ वज़ीर ख़ारजा खुर्शीद कसूरी, पाकिस्तान अवामी महाज के चेयरमैन हसामुल हक, सीनियर सहाफ़ी मनीशंकर अय्यर, सीनियर सहाफ़ी ज़फ़र शाह, मुशीर हुसैन। इस प्रोग्राम का उन्वान है बारूद नहीं बहबूद। पाकिस्तान और हिंदुस्तान 75 साल से एक दूसरे के ख़िलाफ़ जंग में है। ये नारा दोनों तरफ के अमन पसंद और मोहब्बत पसंद लोग उठा रहे हैं कि बारूद नहीं बहबूद। हम इस प्रोग्राम के लिए ओपी शाह के नहायत मशकूर हैं। बहुत शुक्रिया।
अरबों डॉलर दिफा के नाम पर खून बहाने के बजाय तालीम, सेहत और गुर्बत के खात्मे पर खर्च करके देखते हैं। हो लकीर के दोनों तरफ एक ही नारा, बारूद नहीं बहबूद।
Friends, we are very fortunate that two friends and they represent the two nations, and they were ministers earlier, Mr. Manishankar Ayyar and Khurshid Mahmood Kasuri. Both are here today. And we are likely to be joined by Mushahid Hussain. And there are a lot of friends who have been in public life activists. So may I now request, without wasting any more time, request Kasuri Saab to initiate the discussion. And let's concentrate on how to improve the relations between the two countries, because we know that it's important for all of us that the relations between the two countries improve. They are far from normal at the moment. Kasuri Saab.
Thank you very much. I would like to take this opportunity to thank you and other people who are on this webinar, because I'm sure they're all peace activists, and that's why they're here. They wish to promote relations between Pakistan and India. And one of the things that I would like to say is that you also asked me to speak on what are generally known as the 4 points, but I will speak about that in the end, because I wish to focus on other things. And I would like to state here, thank you for your kind remarks, that my interest in Pakistan-India peace started much earlier, much before I assumed the office of Foreign Minister. And that is why I must express my disappointment at the sort of reality or the ground position that exists today. Frankly speaking, and we need to be truthful without being harsh, but unless we are truthful, there is no progress that is possible. I know there are absolutely different perspectives. From Pakistan, since there are very few people, India, you have a large variety of opinions. Those who have come here from Pakistan are people who, like you, wish to improve relations, and they've always had a very positive state of mind. Since you have a very wide audience, I hope what I say will not jar. I'll be truthful, but I wish to say that during my last meeting here on the webinar, some of my friends from India said that the ground reality has changed. I didn't have time to respond to that, but let me respond now. For those who wish really to improve relations Pakistan and India, they must know that no progress can be made unless the atmosphere improves. Now, what I'm going to say is not the view of a Pakistani. It is a view expressed by many eminent Indians and by a large number of members of the international community. It's the situation not just in Kashmir, but of Indian Muslims. Now that has a very direct impact. I'm not talking of interfering in each other's relations. I understand that quite clearly. We have no business, but whenever it's a question of human rights, then it becomes everybody's business. If it is Hindus in Sindh or if it's Muslims in India, you have equal right to, as long as it's based on facts, and I am there to respond to your questions, that this is a very disturbing situation. It's been covered by the international media, particularly the media in the West, which is actually very, very pro-India today because they wish to quote India against China. But even the governments in the United States and Britain and their parliamentarians and human rights organizations have gone on record. That's number one. Number two, I wish to state that, even though we have completely different perspectives, some of us may have, others may not have. Mani and I do not have completely different perspectives. We may have differences. He is an Indian, I'm a Pakistani. So we do have differences in the way we look at things. But basically, our humanity is shared. So now, as far as this Kashmir issue is concerned, because you asked me to speak on peace, and you can't miss the elephant in the room. As far as, let's admit that out of the 10 near war situations, which I've listed in my book, 4 hot wars, the last being in Kargil, they have been on Kashmir. They have not been on anything else. They have not been cultural wars. They have been on Kashmir. Now, you may accuse Pakistan of certain state of mind, and we have our own perspective on it. But there are people who recognize that this needs to be changed. Furthermore, to people who may not think like us, but who still desire peace and development in our respective countries, I would like to say, apart from being neighbors, we have no option but to live in peace, because both Pakistan and India, unfortunately, have developed immense capacity to hurt each other by military means, and that is not going to be to anybody's advantage. Admittedly, India is a much larger country. Admittedly, its economy is much larger, but voices like trying to isolate Pakistan or trying to rubbish each other at the international level doesn't achieve any objective. We cannot isolate India. However hard we try, it may soon become the most populous nation in the world, overtaking China. Its economy is doing very well. Similarly, we may not be as big as India is, but we are the 5th largest country, and we cannot be sort of wished away. We are a part of South Asia, a part of the Muslim world, part of the English-speaking world. So we must be realistic. Just trying, I know there are some people in India and Pakistan, very few now, but 30, 40 years ago, they used to say, oh, time will come and India will disintegrate. And I used to laugh. Nobody is going to disintegrate. And it's not in anyone's interest that these countries disintegrate and then we'll solve Kashmir. No. We have to resolve issues in the situation that exists today. Now, how do we go about doing it? First is by recognizing reality, and reality I've already stated. Now, you've also asked me, is there any positive signs? Let me state there are some positive signs. What are the positive signs? I've read readings by a large number of sophisticated Indians who today recognize that the situation in Kashmir and of Indian Muslims is not in India's interest. Forget about the interests of Muslims. And relations with Pakistan, these people, so I'm not going to quote them because there are so many, it'll take a lot of time. But even let's say the patriotic with capital P Indians like like the former Foreign Secretary, Mr. Shekhar Gupta, they have spoken in many articles about the need to make up for Pakistan for reasons that suit India. And I have always felt that it is in Pakistan's interest to make up with India. Now, having stated that, I'll just briefly refer to 4 points and then give you 5 or 6 small steps that need to be taken. Now, as far as 4 points are concerned, there's nothing religious about it. There's nothing sacrosanct about it. So what is the importance of 4 points? The importance of 4 points is not taught in a jiffy. It took 3 years in which the military and the civil authorities in both countries, if you ask me, I'll explain. In India and in Pakistan, I have the names. I've read books on India. Who were consulted by Prime Minister Manmohan Singh, who was being consulted in Pakistan, I know. So this was 3 years of painstaking effort. What did it achieve? Basically, we're trying to find out if there is any way, because we have such vast differences in perceptions, is there any way where we can accommodate each other? What was the basic thesis? There will be no lasting peace unless Kashmiris live happily. Two, Pakistan and India have to be satisfied. Furthermore, apart from Kashmiris, you see, if Kashmiris were living happily, and there is a lot of opinion internationally which will tell you otherwise, Pakistan's voice will carry less weight. But the important thing is that Pakistan still is a party to the dispute. You cannot wish it away. But your case, Pakistan's case becomes important because of the Kashmiri thing. So what is it that we need to do? Minor points. They're not minor, they're important. What is the good thing that's happened? For example, the ceasefire on the border is still holding. And the language used by the DGMOs was very, very meaningful. They spoke language that normally politicians speak. In other words, they were speaking for their political bosses, that they would each address each other's concerns. But we're not that lucky. We've not reached that stage, but we are lucky that at least the ceasefire is holding. So let's sort of be happy with small mercies. What's the next suggestion? SARC should be reconvened because we are only hurting ourselves. There's a South Asian identity in which India is the largest country. And we do meet each other at other forums like Shanghai Cooperation Organization, where India is not the largest country. But here, India is the largest country. Then visa regime need to be liberalized, I say, in every meeting that we have. And it can include family meetings, contacts, tourism, religious pilgrimage, whatever. People-to-people contact is the ultimate solution. And I've stated in the past that I saw wonders. Normally, cricket matches are a substitute for war between Pakistan and India. But I saw Pakistan win in Delhi, and there was a carnival atmosphere. I saw Pakistan lose in Lahore, and India won. And what happened in Lahore? My Indian friends who had come thought, oh, there'll be rioting. Instead, there were young men and women of Lahore carrying Indian and Pakistani flags. It was at that time dubbed by the international media as public celebration of peace, which means you can change even entrenched attitudes. Role of media is important, and I would suggest that Mr. O.P. Shah, you and others like you, and people like Mani and I, who do attend Track 2 meetings, should suggest to the organizers of Track 2 that they should not just call us, they should not just spend money on us, they should call leading media personalities in both countries. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Kasuri Saab.
All I wanted to say is that I endorse all the 10 points made by my friend Khurshid Kasuri, and I think that should constitute the foundation of taking this dialogue forward. His 10 points are the most constructive suggestions I have heard in all these sessions that I have been attending for the last 3 or 4 years. That does not mean that I do not think others have not made a contribution, but indeed, Nizamuddin Saab just made
Your voice is not clear now.
suggestions that
Mani.
he has made, which I would like to quickly. Can you hear me?
No, you are not.
Can you hear me now?
Please.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah,
Yes.
now we can hear.
Yes, you are audible now.
Okay. I was saying that I endorse the following 10 points made by Mr. Kasuri. Number 1, that no progress can be made until the atmosphere improves. Second, that human rights concern everyone. Third, that there is no alternative to peace. Fourth, that we must be realistic. Neither country is going to disintegrate. Fifth, it is necessary that 3 conditions be fulfilled. The Kashmiris must be happy. India and Pakistan must be satisfied. And Pakistan cannot be wished away. It is party to the dispute. Now, these three principles will inform the negotiation. 6, that the ceasefire is holding and that the language used in the ceasefire declaration is political and diplomatic and therefore is likely to represent more the views of the two governments at the moment than a purely military statement. 7th, that SARC should be revived. I think it could be revived, although Kasuri Saab didn't say this. I think it could be revived in virtual mode if the Indian delegation is not prepared to go to Pakistan physically. 8th, that the visa regime needs to be liberalized. This is, as Kasuri Saab said to me on a previous occasion, the crux of the matter. CRUX, it's the crux of the matter. 9th, people to people is the ultimate solution. And 10th, the role of the media is important, and it would be useful if the media could be associated with track 2 discussions between India and Pakistan. All I need to say is that he has beautifully summed up what needs to be done, and I only want to endorse what he said. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Aya.
Thank you, Mr. Shah. As ever, this conference has been useful and it opens your mind and my mind and everybody's mind to various aspects of Indo-Pakistan relations. I mean, Mr. Iyer has so beautifully summarized what Mr. Kasuri has said, point-wise and most clearly, and I think we should pay heed to that. However, there are certain aspects of this that has some bearing in that change in governments affect policies. And Pakistan at this stage has a new government. And the situation is not stable politically as it should be in normal circumstances. And what the future holds, one cannot be certain. The problem, we don't want to go into the genesis of how partition happened and who did what, but as Mr. Kasuri said, we have to stick by the ground realities or the realities as they exist today. And I think Mr. Nizamuddin Bhatt has emphasized that too. The reality is the geography of India and Pakistan does not lend itself to a lack of conflict or disharmony because of Kashmir. Kashmir is a prime point. You know, just imagine the whole of Kashmir being part of India, just for a second. India will then border Afghanistan and the whole of China will be outside Pakistan. So just imagine the geographical implications of how things move. And I think the resolution for Kashmir is hugely important.
I'm coming back tomorrow.
As it is for India. And the happiness of the Kashmiri people and these human rights is obviously beyond any question. But the changes in the status of Kashmir has not been mentioned. And the previous Pakistan government had made it conditional for relations to be revived on a return to status quo previously. Now, this seems to have, the policies seem to have moved on with the new government, and there are now indications that this sort of pragmatic and realpolitik, as they say, has come into play, and some overtures have been made to make relationships again. And that may well be right, but it is incumbent upon India to increase the situation within Kashmir, perhaps a return of the governments in Indian Kashmir and an attention to human rights will make a huge difference. You know, in Pakistan, the anti-Indian rhetoric does not now exist. It used to be part of the electioning process. It isn't anymore for last many elections. Whereas it seems to me that in India, this is still an important point. And people gain, as Mr. Nizamuddin said, the electoral gain has been used for this. So a return to peace is the most important point at this point. And the 4 points is an excellent start. I mean, there are certain things that are required. The respect for each other's political position and understanding of what rhetoric is permissible, and the safety of Kashmiris, and an end to or no changes in the demography of Kashmir, notwithstanding the fact that people who have been removed from Kashmir have a right to come back. I mean, there's no two things about it. It will be the same as the Palestinian process. So I don't think any right-thinking man will object to that, but bringing in other people would make a difference. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Muzaffar Shah Saab from Srinagar.
Yeah, today I am in Delhi, sir. Good evening to everybody. All the panelists there. And I've been hearing our eminent panelists very carefully. Though let me be very brief and precise. I also do fairly agree to what Kasuri Saab laid down a path for peace, and that was ably seconded by our friend Mr. Shankaraya. I also do believe that it is time for us to move on and really the bridges for peace, because enough is enough in here now. Enough is enough between India and Pakistan. I think it is time that both the big brother and the younger brother, they sit down without the baggage of hatred, shun it away. What Mushirul Hasan also said, that situation may not be okay in Pakistan at this time, but it's not going to stay like that forever. Stability of Pakistan is very, very important for India and vice versa. And very, very important for Kashmir. We have suffered because of the problems between the two countries. And we being the core matter, whether somebody agrees or not, it is the core matter between India and Pakistan. It has to be resolved. My friend Ashok Ban said his views are also to be taken on board, because there have been tremendous sufferings. But somewhere down the line, I would even tell my friend Ashok, I would tell Manishankar Iyer, our Kasuri Saab, everyone on the panel, that we have seen all this. Our generations have seen it earlier and they're seeing it now. We have to move ahead. There is no other way but for peace between India and Pakistan. And we cannot keep on harping on the past. We cannot have many more everyday dead bodies, and we cannot have blood being spilled all around Kashmir. It has to come to an end, sir. And the best method forward is people-to-people contact. That is what negates hatred. That is what negates acrimony. I have also seen, and you are also experienced people in this matter. We may talk very ill about each other. We may say, because of political baggage that we all carry, But when we meet as Indians and Pakistanis, whether in India or in Pakistan or anywhere else in the world, we consider each other as family. We sit with each other. What about that? You have to really come in now, and both the governments of India and Pakistan, they have to give up their political baggage, and if one or two of our people, even our friend Nizamuddin Bhatt, he talked about the electoral college and electoral situation. Well, yes, that is a fact. But you see both the countries where we are headed. What is the expenditure on defense? My God. We are actually ruining ourselves.
Please conclude.
I will, sir. And I do stand by that people-to-people contact should come in. Practical realization has to come that what is happening in Kashmir, it has to be realized. And terrorism of all sorts, referred to all sorts of terrorism, state or wherever it is coming from, has to be tried to be put to an end. And we have to move forward and see that we can open up our borders and we can move as people from one place to another, and we can see settlement that is agreeable to both India, Pakistan, and primarily to the people of Jammu, Kashmir, Ladakh on both sides of the line of control. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Shah.
So nice of you. Thank you very much. और कसूरी साहब को सुना, मणिशंकर राय को सुना, बाकी तमाम दोस्तों को, साथियों को। बुनियादी बात यह है कि सब चाहते हैं, and everybody wants that there should be peace in the region. Everybody wants that all conflicts, they should be resolved. But one thing I feel is, from all this discussion, that we need to focus on the economics of the two countries, especially which is at stake. We are spending trillions of dollars on war machines, which should have been spent on human development. This is not being done. Who is benefiting out of it? It's the American and their allies, the imperialist countries, their military industrial complex. They are benefiting out of it. While the people of both the countries, including the Kashmiris, they are the losers. So how long we will take that we will not let the other countries benefit, rather our people should benefit? When we will learn that we should spend all this money for poverty alleviation in the two countries and specifically in the Kashmir? Now coming to the Kashmir issue. Kashmir issue is right from 1947. It's a colonial legacy which needs to be resolved, not just as a politician. We have been, sorry to say, all along since then, we have been taking it as a political issue rather than a human issue. It should not be taken as just as political gain, just for political gain for one party or the other, but rather we should concentrate on the humanitarian grounds and start thinking on humanitarian issues, what is being faced, rather than thinking as a politician. So unless we stop this, we can't reach any conclusion. And I heard from both sides, and the third side is of Kashmiris also, that this is an issue between two countries. No, it's not issue between two countries. It is an issue which is being faced by the Kashmiris. Kashmiris are the main party. And I'm sorry to say that throughout last 70 years or so, Kashmiris have been neglected, and the two countries, they are trying to resolve it one way or the other in their own interest. It will never be resolved. It can only be resolved when the third party is also taken on an equal basis and they become part and parcel of all negotiations. Unless that happens, it will not. And again, I will repeat and request Mr. Shah, he has done very nice thing, very good efforts, that please arrange such a webinar which can talk that what peace can give benefit to the two countries and the region, and what we have lost and what we are losing economically. If all figures, I am not an economist. If the economist, you engage some economists from either side and Kashmir, and let's decide and let's see that work. And the last note, finishing by whatever I had to say, I will endorse the idea of reviving SAR. Under that umbrella, we all can sit together, we all can talk together, we all can feel free to be knowing each other more better under the present circumstances, and decide once for all that we are not to fight. We are not here to fight. We are not here for hatred. We are here for love. We should promote love, not hatred. And we should think of whole of the region as a whole. And that, let's take back to the history of centuries old India, which was the richest South Asia was the richest place in the world. Now we are the poor world place in the world. That nobody is to be blamed. We are to be blamed. We South Asians have to be blamed. We can't transfer the blame to America or Russia or any other country. We are to be blamed. We lost everything. So please, let sense prevail. Let sanity prevail. Let's sit together. Let not fight. Let resolve our issues. Let resolve our conflicts and bring peace, harmony, and work on a humanitarian basis. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
This is Mushir Hussain from Scotland. I'm originally from Pakistan, and that is where I belong. So I just want to say I was very taken by Mr. Nathan's peace journey on the cycle, and may he be successful and may his journey be fruitful. But equally, it was sad to see comments about the history of our countries. If we go back into history, तो बात बहुत दूर तक चली जाएगी. There are so many things in our history that are contradictory, that are basis of conflict. But if you just look as an example, the rejection of the ABC formula of the Simon Commission by the Indian leadership of the Congress, although they initially accepted by Gandhi, but the working committee cancelled it, and the Muslim League and Jinnah had accepted it. You could see that this was a time for a federal India with three parts. And this would have kept India together. It was the Congress and the Indian majority that refused it. So if we go into the past, we'll go too far back. And this idea of Muslims being cannot stay in a country where the rule is outside of Muslim hands is a very old movement during the British times when people immigrated to Afghanistan and came back to the frontier to fight the war. And it was mostly fought with the English and the Sikhs at that time, as it happened. So if we go into history, it will become very complex. But the reality is that Bangladesh today is a reality. It is still an existent part. Remember when Bengal was partitioned in 2007 by Lord Curzon, there was huge agitation in Calcutta, such that, to the extent that the Indian government, the British government, was frightened that there might be an armed uprising. And so they quickly put it back together. And now that Bengal is partitioned, the basis of the partition in Bengal is the basis of religion, is it not? Bangladesh could have been part of Bengal and Bengal could have been part of Bangladesh, but it isn't the case. So there are some factors we do not completely understand or take it. Human beings react in different ways. The idea of secularism and the body politics of religion are completely different things. So if we go into these things, we'll get totally out of track. We have to stick with the peace track. What is there is there. And so we have to build on that, as Mr. Kasuri said, and Mr. Shankar Iyer said. I think that forms the basis of it. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anybody else?
Shah Sahab, could I say one line?
Yes, please.
Mushir has very rightly put the records straight, historical records straight, and others have also talked about history. One line I would like to say is that let's not live in history. We should learn from history and try to make history. We are here to make history, not to live in history.
Great history of peace. We are looking for your concluding remarks, Kasuri sir.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Shah. And I have listened to everything that everybody has said. It's always enriching to listen to other perspectives. But I think as Mushir Hassan Saab and the other gentleman whose name I could not get, who spoke in the end about Cabinet Mission Plan, it only proves one point, whether it's the division of Bengal or whatever. Let's not go back into history. How long will you go back? To the slave dynasty, to the Mughals, to Chandragupta Maurya, to Ashoka, where? Then the Central Asians came. I don't think it will serve any purpose. Let us now, we all know that people who attend these seminars are of a certain level, of a certain intellectual level, and they can understand all the contradictions inherent in the stands adopted by all the parties. Now, what I wanted to say is, it's been very appropriately pointed out, therefore, let's focus on the present and the future. We all know our history. Most of us have been sometimes taught wrong history. In fact, we have murdered history in both countries. So let's proceed. Let's proceed from where the Gandhians who are visiting Pakistan, one I didn't get his name, he referred to Mahatma Gandhi's peace message. So Mahatma Gandhi also pointed out that any peace to be sustainable has to be just. I will not go further. All I'm going to say is this, that there are certain basics which were non-controversial, which Mani Shankar supported, which I had proposed, and Mani Shankar himself has proposed these things on many occasions, which I have supported, because we know the respective stands of our parties, of our countries. I also know that if we were to reiterate them, there'd be no purpose in having this sort of a meeting. The point is to go further from that, and the points that I had suggested were the least controversial. You heard people talking about United Nations Security Council resolutions. You heard people being expelled, Pandits being expelled from Kashmir. Then you heard 30 lakh Kashmiris being expelled who are living in Azad Jammu Kashmir. Where are we going to go? So I think basically let's focus on what can be done. And I don't wish to repeat that. The meeting has already been very long. I would conclude by saying the answer, the key is people to people contact. I say this with experience, not simply because it sounds nice. I have experienced it when there were very entrenched positions in Pakistan and India. It changed in almost 1.5 years because I was particularly supporting a liberal visa regime, and in response, Indians also did. India also started issuing visas, and I supported every Indian who wanted to come to Pakistan, Indian journalists, Pakistani parliamentarians, Indian parliamentarians. I used to encourage and ordinary people, trade, culture, singers, film stars. This people-to-people contact is the way out. These problems are there. We cannot wish them away when people are asking what is Pakistan's locus standi. An alternative question can be asked, what is India's locus standi? After all, Congress always stood for the rights of the people, not for rights of princes and maharajas. But that will again get us nowhere. So I suggest we focus on what is doable. And I tried to suggest that, and I'm very grateful that Mani Shankar seconded it strongly. And many others, I noticed, supported it. Thank you very much, Mr. Opishar.
Thank you very much.